Are you gonna listen to the move?
I've been out the loop since '09.
Yeah, I'll be back to get at that, though.
Check this. I'm at the motherfucking house last night. Guess what the fuck I see?
What you see?
Shamika, what's up?
Fuck you think you fucking with? It's Maxwell, bitch.
Fuck you in them shoes.
Bitch, I'm about to stalk you with these shoes.
I thought I told you to get a jump to Crazy D.
I did give it to Crazy D. You know D, you must have seen money in that. You know he used to produce those nudie DVDs.
Fuck you, thin man. I know you did it.
Don't let your mouth write a check, cause I will take it out on your ass. Damn, man. Is you serious?
I don't appreciate being roughed up by men, or should I say, male bitches.
Yeah, you gonna work out.
And we look for young ladies like you to host them.
I look like somebody that can host your videos.
That's right. So go change, cause we ain't got all day.
Get off the house.
Pretty good, though. Don't get on that bullshit.
Crazy. What the hell? How you in my room?
Film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on the Film Review Live channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stannis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching the Film Review.
What's going on, people? Do we have a jam-packed show for you today? First of all, who are you watching? You're watching the Film Review. Yes. Movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Crazy D.
Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, society on this podcast, right? Every Sunday at 5:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m. Eastern 5:30 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
We are on, and like I said, we have a jam-packed show. As usual, you know it's brought to you by Back in Cleveland Movie. Go right over to lordlandfilms.com. That's lordlandfilms.com. You're able to order the hard copy DVD, or you're able to link and stream the stream version on demand. That's right, it is the most funniest, the most dramatic film coming from out of Cleveland, Ohio, featuring Cleveland, Ohio MCs and actors, putting it into something that Crazy D wrote, and of course I starred in it along with many of the others, Philly Mac, Poison Ivy, Black Nile, Priscilla Moore, right? And a whole host of others. Let me stop this right here. And so people, don't forget, this whole show, the film review, episode 126, brought to you by Back in Cleveland Movie. Available on those platforms on lordlandfilms.com. All right, people. So look, we are so jam-packed. The first thing I need to ask is, how was your week? Blurbs of the week.
Well, we mourn the passing and still are mourning the passing of our loved one.
That's right. Robert Earl Ellsbury, my father, passed on. We had his homegoing service yesterday. My sister, like I said before, Tanya M. Congress, she did a excellent,
great job,
yo woman's job
she did.
At preparing everything.
She did.
And so again, we say tribute and honor to my father.
Yes.
He passed on 86 years young.
Yes.
Job well done.
Well done.
And we move and we move. So people, listen.
He served his country. Don't forget that.
He served his country. He got the honor guard came out and presented my sister with the flag.
Yes.
United States flag. The United States flag representing America, right?
Yeah.
So people, we are simulcasting on Instagram, Crazy D Film Dude, Crazy D Film Dude on Instagram.
Right.
We're also on Periscope, that's at TFRPODCASTLIVE.
Right.
We're also on FB on the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast page, right? And we're also on YouTube. We are streaming live, so we're on all those platforms. And remember, we're on Crazy D Film Dude for the first hour, because that's how Instagram does it. But we're on for it because we're a 2-hour program, right? So
which flies by quickly.
Which flies by so quickly, right?
Yeah.
So listen, so look, we're jam-packed. So it's no need. So besides that, and besides our father being buried, right? What else is on your mind as far as blurbs of the week?
Oh,
as we get started.
Did Biden? He selected Kamala Harris. That was this week.
Kamala, not Kamala, like what people think, but Kamala. It's Kamala,
right?
Because it's based on Indian, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. So let's start with some interesting memes that we saw. All right, some interesting memes that we saw, and you can see that, of course, on the Instagram. You won't be able to see this, so you have to go to either one of the other platforms, the Periscope, the YouTube, or the Facebook to be able to see this part, right? So look, so let's start with this first. First thing out, first interesting meme of the week that I saw, it's pretty interesting. It's breaking down the various predator Caucasian women that are predatory towards black American black men and American black women and many
And
times
children.
American black children.
You can't leave out the children.
That's right. So we have Becky. What's up to Stu? I see the Stu is watching.
Hey, Stu, and Algie, Tanya.
So Becky, 19 to 35 years of age.
Okay.
Then of course we have the Karens, and the Karens have really been acting up, right?
Yeah.
35 to 45, and then we have the Susans, which are 45 to 60 and beyond, right? And
Right.
I guess they're saying that there shouldn't be another category because by the time they get to 75, they should be not really too much worried about trying to kill American black people. So, you know, watch out, guys. 19 to 30. Watch out, guys. College years. Watch out, guys. Becky, I'm telling you, that's a nightmare scenario there. So watch out for that, right?
Yeah.
So look, another interesting meme that we saw this week. It comes in a two-parter. So I decided I would go on ahead and put both parts up, right?
Right.
As two different units. Okay. This is what the meme says. Me watching the intellectual / educated black people in America discussing which of they left the out, but I'll put it in, of the masses leadership is the lesser of two evils and which is best for them. Republican versus Democrat. Meanwhile, the Asian Americans and all other groups, I guess it says, all other non-white people are minding their own business. You see? So that's interesting. While you're trying to vote between the lesser of two evils, the other non-white, or should I say, they're not looking at non-black candidates. They're just minding their own business. I thought that was pretty good and interesting to look at this week because you're voting for the lesser of two evils. How do you sound? Okay, so people, here's the other part that went with it. Your ancestors died so you would be able to vote. We hear that. We hear that a lot, right? Okay. Black Lives One. This is under the title Black Lives 101. Okay. Your ancestors died for you to be able to vote. Right. Right? Right. Truth. Right. Or fact. Right. Your good ancestors died fighting so you can be independent, self-reliant, and be free. Okay. They didn't die because they died so you could have the right to vote. They died because there were a group of people who didn't want them to vote, so they couldn't be independent, self-reliant, and be free. So they didn't die. When people say that people died so you would have the right to vote, that is not true. They died because they were fighting to be independent, self-reliant, and free, and that happened to be a byproduct of people who don't want to see them be independent, self-reliant, and free. So they killed them while they were working to establish the vote because they thought the vote would really mean something to go along with everything else that was being utilized to try to advance the plight of American black people. So when people say, they died for the right to vote, that's not true. That's fake, it's fallacy, because a lot of people died while they were trying to sit at the lunch counters, and so they died so you could sit at Woolworths and eat dinner. Right? They died so that you could be at Woolworths and eat dinner. Is that what it was? Or they died so that you could ride in the front of the bus. Is that true? Or is that just that certain evil people were killing them to keep them from being, what is it again? Independent, self-reliant, and free. And so we have to rearrange and get our thought processes right. And that's what this show is about, because the show this week, number 126, is about, is voting best interest for American blacks, Biden-Harris ticket. That's the title. You know, a standardized, you know, newspaper quote opening up the story, right? So here's one that was very interesting. So you have to really look close. I don't know if the logo kind of blocks it a little bit, but it says this guy Richard just got married with his online girlfriend. Had never met her before and decided to get married straight away. Things don't seem right. I am praying for him. Now, what you don't see, because the logo is kind of blocking it out a little bit, is under the dress there, it looks like a healthy nut sack. Healthy nut sacks under there in the dress. And it's like, wow. He didn't take the time to really check out what was going on with his online girlfriend. Was he being catfished, or will he later be pegged? The answer will be later told, but we won't know. But here we go. So here's another meme that we saw this week that we thought was pretty good. Here, let's look at it. I'm so pro-black. I'm the friend you have to explain to your other friends before they meet me. That one was funny. It was hilarious. I said, hey, that is pretty good, right? As we go through these.
That should be on a t-shirt. Right?
That should be on a t-shirt, right? That should be. Okay. Here's one that is dear to my heart. I didn't write it, but once I saw it, I said, I have to put this up and then read it on the show. I thought it was great. Okay, so it says, if a simple, common sense question shuts down the logic of your plan or thought, quickly remove yourself from the discussion and return with a new idea. Return with a new idea. Don't try to argue that point. If a simple, common sense question shuts down the logic of your plan or thought, quickly remove yourself from the discussion and return with a new idea. Right. There are people who do not follow that simple logic. Right. They will argue their point and it's been blown up. It wasn't meant to be blown up, but it was blown up by a question. And so, go back and reformulate your thing and come back with some better answers to, be prepared to answer questions, right? If you're doing something, right? So 213-943-3358 once we get the discussion started. 213-943-3358. And don't forget that our Cash App, $ TFR Podcast Live, $ TFR Podcast Live. Drop a few dollars on there. You like what you're hearing, and we're going to keep on bringing it to you. And remember our hashtag TFR Podcast Live. Just type that in Google. TFR Podcast Live. Type it in Google and everything comes up, and you can watch hours and hours of entertaining, informative, from music to us to on and on and on. That's what we do.
And we want to thank Stu for the Cash App.
Yeah, the Cash App last week before. Week before. Yeah, that's right. So we want to shout out to him, and we want to thank Gene for the Cash App, right? Yeah. And so, as we push through this and we continue to make things happen, we look to you and we appreciate you. Yeah. Okay, here we go, people. Here's the one right here. There are over 496,000 people now paralyzed in India that weren't before they took a vaccine funded by Bill Gates. Wow. Is this meme true or not?
I don't know. So where did it come from? Did the meme, was there a resource?
There's no resource, but I put it up there because Is this meme true? See, because sometimes people have to go out and actually research, right? And they have to really check out who is debunking so-called conspiracy theories. If they're debunking them, who are they connected to? But if this is true,
I meant source. Who's the source?
I know. If this is true,
Right.
right? And we have discussed this in depth. We played the video with Bill Gates talking about what he's about. If this is true, how does that bode for the vaccine that they are developing for COVID-19? And would you take that? You can discuss anything. 213-943-3350.
Okay, so let's see. I see a conversation on Instagram. Okay, you're closer.
Yeah, I mean, there's just people coming in.
Okay.
Would you surprise me if it were? Would it surprise me if it were true? Tanya Congress asked. Edward Martin is watching.
Okay.
What's up to Ed? Okay, so look, people, look. So that's an interesting meme, and we have to ask these questions because you're going to be taking your kids in, and you're going to be taking yourself, and you're going to be taking the elderly in to get this, right? To get this vaccine. It's supposed to be the wonder cure for COVID-19, right? And sometimes some of the flu vaccines, because the strains of the flu change, and then it doesn't work, and you didn't took it.
I remember the one year that I received the flu vaccination. You remember? And then a couple of months later, the doctor, what did she say? She said that they accidentally
gave the wrong vaccine for the wrong, because the strand that was coming out wasn't the one that they gave it for.
So everybody was receiving a flu vaccine that year, and it was the wrong.
Ed said, "What's up, cuz?" Hey, cuz. He said, "Hey, cuz." Now, what's up, cuz? I don't want to say the California thing. What's up, cuz? Yeah, right.
It was the wrong strand, and then after that, I was just like, forget it. I'm thinking that I'm, getting my vaccination, preparing for the fall and the winter, and then to learn that they had released the wrong type of flu medication. After that, I was just like, forget it.
That's it. Ain't that something? So this is as we go through these. Okay. So this has been an interesting week. A lot of memes came out this week. We're headed towards this November 3rd, and a lot of memes come out. How 2016 actually looked, right?
Right.
All right. So as you look at this, you look at Trump, right? Then you look at Clinton, right? And you see the numbers for Trump and Clinton, right?
Right.
So they're saying that Clinton really won the popular vote, right?
Oh.
She won the popular vote, but the part of the vote that didn't matter, she didn't win, which was the Electoral College.
Okay.
And if you don't win the Electoral College, sorry people, you just don't win. So look over here. Look at how many people did not, eligible voters that didn't vote. 3%. 42.3% of the population did not vote.
Do you think people didn't vote because people are discouraged? Because during that election, I mean, fast forward, so we deal with a lot of killings, right?
Yeah.
So during that was like what Trayvon was during that time, Philando Castro, Eric Gardner, Mike Brown, Sandra Bland, and on and on and on. So all of that was, so people were just like, okay, well.
And then who did they put in office? But the one who killed Gaddafi, the one who ordered the strike, what was that? Talked to the president, gave him advice. She was one of his advisors. Hillary Clinton.
Right. So, and it's just like, so with the murders happening, what else was going on? Now we had a lot of people losing their jobs because a lot of jobs were overseas, right?
So they wanted something.
So it was just like people, right, and all of those people, but really at the time, okay, so we had Obama in office, right? So I believe like a lot of the people who have voted for change didn't see change.
They saw a lot.
Right.
They saw
So I think that's why a lot of people didn't vote, because there were reasons. There's a what is it,
cause
a
and
reaction,
effect.
right? A cause and effect. So
That's
that
right.
was the reaction.
But see, plus they saw a beer summit at the beginning. Remember, we talked about Henry Louis Gates.
Okay.
And how, and we talked about how many last week we talked about how many slaves actually landed in America, and could that have beget 42 point something million?
Right.
So we talked about that last week. You can check that on another show, right? On our previous show, 125.
What's the saying? You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time.
Right.
So what they're dealing with now is the group of people that can't be fooled.
Can't be fooled. We've got 647 on the line and 269. Stay on the line, because we're going through and we're going to come right to you, right? So stay on the line. We're going to be right there with you. So look. We're sitting here and we're looking at this, right?
Right.
And we're looking at this and saying how many people did not vote. Do you believe?
You have to give people something to vote for.
You do. Because did you really believe in Hillary? I didn't. I didn't believe in her. I really didn't. So anyway, look, people, look. So here's where the rubber starts to hit the road in all of this, right? As the rubber starts to hit the road as we get closer to the situation, because remember, this show is episode 126, right? And it's voting best interest for American blacks Biden-Harris ticket. Is it in the best interest of black people, American blacks, Harris Biden? Now look, Trump just signed an executive order this week. He signed quite a few this week, but he signed 4 that we're going to be talking about in particular, but he signed one that has to do with people who have putting preferential treatment or preferencing people who have skills over people who have degrees. You know how you know how people tell you that you're underqualified if you don't have a degree. Right. Well, Trump is leveling the playing field and saying that this is about people who have skilled labor, because America is crumbling, and so people who have a skill set will be equal to, or maybe a little bit above, those who have gotten themselves a degree.
But haven't they been doing that already?
Who?
Like. Because I know black people who have master's degrees, and they won't get a particular position. They'll give it to somebody that's not black.
Oh, you mean somebody non-black that's like maybe nepotism, kind of like what Biden did with his son right after he was kicked out of the reserves for failed cocaine test. But we're gonna get to that tonight, right? So look. Well, let's look at it that way. Let's see, what do the black people have master's degrees in, right? So not no aspersion on American black people at all, right? But let's say that they had some of their Caucasian friends and they thought that they could be just like their Caucasian friends. They forgot about you got to be 10 times greater and better at something than your Caucasian friends, and they went following the Caucasian friend. Right? Let's see what they're saying on YouTube real quick. I have not taken a flu shot in several years. I do not trust that vaccine. That is from Kenneth Majoris. And Kenneth Majoris also said, people thought Hillary was going to just flat out win. And it was not worth their time to vote. I have a feeling it's going to be deja vu all over again. I don't think that people thought that Hillary was just going to just straight out win. I think that they just didn't see anything in Hillary to vote for. A lot of people thought she was going to win. But I know that's what the media pushed, but I don't believe that, because when I was looking at her, I said, I'm not voting. I'll vote down ballot.
But not you. You have to pull you from out of the equation, because I know a lot of people who, I keep saying a lot of people, but I have a big family and lots of friends, right? But I know people who thought that she was going to win. And I know people who voted for her. So people genuinely thought that she was going to win. But
I think out of that 42 something percent, I think 42.3%, I think that at least half of them wasn't voting because there was nothing to vote for. I'll give half of the people thought that the media that was pushing these. Isn't the media doing the same thing and pushing those polls and saying that, oh, Biden is ahead? Biden hasn't offered anything to American black people. We're going to get to that tonight.
Well, he's been used to, they're used to not offering anything to black Americans. And then you have some black people who are blind, like, to no extent, right?
Right.
And without even asking for anything.
Right. Because what did Kamala, Kamala, that's how you pronounce, not Kamala. It's not African, it's Kamala. Yeah. It's Indian.
Yeah, they gave the correct pronunciation.
Kamala. It's Kamala. Remember that, people. When you meet her, don't say Kamala, say Kamala, because she really is into her Indian heritage. And we're going to talk about that again tonight. But what did Kamala Harris say when she was running for president?
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but see, that's fine, because the thing is, you would you would want the candidate to do something for all people, but the issue is that when she said that, she sat down with a group of Indians.
Her people.
Not Native Americans, but
Indians
Indian Americans, right?
Whose lineage is from India.
Right, and she sat down with them and created an agenda for them.
Everybody gets an agenda.
So if she can sit down and have an agenda with them, just like when Biden, he sat down and had an agenda with Latinos. That's fine. You sit down and have an agenda with different groups. But when they ask regarding what's your agenda for black people, and that's the response,
right?
That's when I have a problem. And there are some black people who, how can I say this nicely? They can't grasp that.
They can't.
And I don't know if it's low self-esteem.
Low self.
But you should expect the same type of
set-asides
other
groups.
Respect towards your group, right? As any other group.
Matter of fact, shouldn't they be shouldn't we get a refund on the set-asides that Martin Luther King died for, that Rosa Parks sat on the front? Shouldn't we get a refund?
Right.
Because it hasn't been the same since, the 64, 65, 68 Civil Rights Act. But then in between 64 and at the same time in 65, they did the immigrant. They wrote up the Immigrant Act, and it hasn't been the same, because before 1965, all the immigrants were facing discrimination the same as we were, so they were with us. Once the 65 Act for Immigration Act came about, then all of a sudden they started living and hanging with the white and started opening up business in our hood to take the money, but then they were going out there living the white.
Right.
But we're going to get to that. So shouldn't we have our set-asides back now?
Because she sat down with an agenda and a program for the Indian community.
So we can have our set-asides back.
Biden sat down and he talked to the Latino community just like Bernie did.
We can be
and
that
they talked about
flag.
programs. But then when we sit down and ask about programs, then that's the response we get.
This is what's said.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
I'm not going to do just...
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
Benefit black people.
I'm not
now, what's funny is, in the next part of the interview, on the longer version of the interview, which we're going to play right now, in the longer version of the interview that was done by the griot, she uses and flips a definition that people in the struggle use, that says that when they do for black people, automatically the people above will benefit from it. So she flips it and says, I'm not going to just do anything for black people, because what it really is, it's going to be for everybody. And really, when something's done for black people, it helps raise. So she took what she learned being around American blacks and flips it as a weapon against us, and it's slick, and you have to listen closely. We're playing the whole clip of it, right? So listen to this very closely.
Well, listen. Again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act.
Now, right. Now that sounds good. Now did you hear that? She said because black people have not, have been discriminated against, she's proposing the LIFT Act.
But I thought she said she was against reparations.
No, wait a minute now.
That's what she said.
Listen to what she's saying now. This is very important to how this is flipped. Listen to what she said. She's talking about she's proposing the LIFT Act. And then when the person kind of pushes back on her, she says, I'm not just doing anything just for black. Why would you propose the LIFT Act? You just went through telling us that it's discrimination. We've been discriminated against. This, that, this, and another. And then all of a sudden you turn around and say it's not just for black people. I'm not going to just do one thing for black people. I'm going to do it for black people. I'm going to do it for Indians. I'm going to do it for Mexicans. I'm going to do it for whites. Because really, when all boats rise, when something is done for black people, all road. But it's the way she flipped it. So pay attention. Is this... Now remember Biden came out and said she'll be ready on day one to assume the presidency in case something happened to him, right? He said that when he announced her and they came out on stage, right? Is this the person that you want representing for?
I thought they said their priority when they get into office was immigration. That's what they say, right?
For black people. But this is when she was running for president, right? So she's saying this, but listen to what she says, this First Step Act or One Step Act or whatever she called it. It's all BS in my opinion, but keep listening.
Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit black children, black families, black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this. Any policy that will benefit black people will benefit all of society.
So let's pause right there. You see, that light bulb went off, and she said, I'm talking to this black reporter at the Griot, and the light bulb went off. Let me bring up something that I learned when I was going to school with the blacks.
At Howard.
Right. Let me bring up something that's something that if it helps black people, then it's automatically going to raise everybody else. Well, we need something that's going to help American black people exclusively, that will raise us up to being on an equal footing. So we need equity to bring us up to an equal footing with those who have been able to benefit from off of the work that we did for free. Now remember, now they talk about housing, right? They talk about housing, but housing, those people was getting houses for free. They were getting land for free if you had property.
Right.
When you came over as an immigrant,
right.
If you didn't have any money, you had to go join the military. We've seen that. Or you had to, in the Irish case, become patty rollers and go out and collect runaway slaves to get your citizenship.
Right.
Others who had money coming from the old country, who had money to be able to buy property. Right. The property is not the land, people. The property was black bodies.
Right.
You could buy black bodies and you would get a certain amount of land to be able to plant tobacco, cotton, etc., beans.
Right.
So when police say serve and protect, what are they serving and protecting?
Right.
Got to do.
Well, the question that I can't get answered is, but then why do they need to have, and they do, separate policy and programs for other groups?
If all boats are risen.
Right. But they have specific grants and programs for other groups that they're meeting with, but then like just now with her,
other groups that I might add that you're saying that have taken, that they have somehow, once they put the term minority in, slid all of the set-asides that were for black people in America as a protected class over to them, and now they're trying to give them more. And so let's continue with this. Then we're gonna take our first phone call.
Everybody
We're going to take our
Why are
first
there
phone
separate
call.
meetings for different groups?
Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. No. Because whatever benefits that black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
But you have programs, wait a minute. But then you have programs, there's programs and policy that you guys are meeting with different groups on that specifically just benefit them. And that's the problem that I can't get for certain black people to just click that mind on.
Click it on.
Like it's just like, why don't sit down and go beyond just the surface, right?
Right.
I mean, like watch the news, read, like they talk about all of the different groups that they sit down with and what they talked about. Right. So all you have to do is Google it, and then you can read what was said when they had their meetings and conferences with the different groups of people. Like it's all there.
Meanwhile,
like it's no secret.
Meanwhile, they tell us we need to suffer through it. We don't need any special set aside.
But then it's like then they start off with this. Well, we know, like unlike other groups who, when they came to America, were provided with free land and homes. Mm-hmm. And then we can just, besides going that far back, let's say moving forward with the black veterans, the Vietnam vets, right? Mm-hmm. When the same, the grants and stuff, and when they went to the bank, the loans and stuff that they gave them, they didn't give to the black GIs.
No, they didn't.
They only gave to the white GIs.
That's
right? And so there are disparities all over.
Constantly going through.
It's a
constant situation.
And then it's just like, but it's not, the issue isn't being resolved. They'll say, well, we see the disparities. And they'll talk about,
They'll talk about it.
They'll talk about it, but then they don't have
an immigrant. And say it's about immigrants.
Right. So it's like they'll jump real quick. They'll jump from saying we see the disparities, we see the issue with this and this and that, and this was wrong to black Americans. They were wrong. Uh-huh. But then they'll quickly switch to talking about something else. And then she mentioned the lift something. Did she ever say specifically what this lift was going to do? Because I didn't hear it just now.
No, she said
she talked about a program.
Yeah, the First Step Act or whatever, and it's going to do.
But it wasn't. Give us a tangible.
So that's the American.
Give us a tangible. They always talk about we're going to every time somebody run, we'll make sure that black people can get
Have this,
loans
have
for
that.
housing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their go-to. Oh, the other one is jail. Like
Right.
every black person has been
Yeah,
in jail.
everybody's been in
So
prison.
we'll have police reform for you people.
Right.
So that's the two things that
That's
they'll,
two things.
you know. So I mean, it's
But
just.
but it's like how are you thinking about getting a mortgage when to level the playing field
you
would
can't
have
even
to
get a job.
No, you would have to get the land
Right.
free.
Like
and
they did.
build upon the land.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed why intimate domain was put in, and why certain people like the different oil companies, whether it be fracking, and they will take the land right from off or under the people? It's because those are the same people whose generations before they were given the land for free to produce something that America needed.
Right.
Right? You had to do your research. They did that so they could do it. So they can come and take it because they never really paid for it. But to balance out what it is, it's a game. Because if you don't pay that mortgage every month and you go into default, it's like anyway, you're a squatter that's paying for a house that you think is a property.
Right.
When really it's about the land and owning the land. So let's take a 647, you're on the line. Who are we speaking with? 647. Going once, going twice. 647. I don't know. I'm not hearing 647. 647. Let's see. 269. Are you on the line? 269. Are you on the line?
You know what? And I've also seen over and over and over again, when it's time to lay people off, I sit back and I watch the people who are being chosen to be laid off. Like it's just, you know.
It's just one big game.
It's just one big game.
And so, you know, I don't know what's going on with the people that are holding. I don't know why I'm not hearing them. They're not hearing me. It happens whenever we have a interesting topic like this. But it's cool. We will continue on. So look, people. Or maybe they were listening to us and didn't hear us. You have to listen to us through Blog Talk to be able to hear us when we bring you up online. So anyway, people, or you could have heard it over the broadcast if you were listening. 1904, right? In 1904, the world's first electric traffic light is installed in the USA on the corner of East 105th Street and Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. Okay. Now, people, who made the electric traffic light? Who made the light?
Oh, yeah.
That was Garrett Morgan.
Yep.
Right? Garrett Morgan made the stoplight, and if you notice, it was encased in a black box, and it was red, yellow, green. Red, black, and green. You know what I mean? So every time you see a traffic light, you're seeing the colors that they have put down for that, right? That Garrett Morgan put down for that. And so that's what that is. Let me see. Let me try 647 again. 647. Are you on the line? 647. 647. Yeah, everything is there. Everything is connected. I don't know what's going on with that tonight, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to keep on pushing on. Keep on pushing on. We like to have phone calls, but if not, it's cool. Okay, so the next thing, people, as we keep going. Now, the ingenious scientists, right? Okay. The ingenious scientists have come up with what Nefertiti really looked like. They finally are telling the truth. It is no longer the scientist, the excavator who took a bust of his wife and buried it and then brought it up and all those people who be wearing the Nefertitis with the big crown and stuff, and it's the narrow nose and them low broke cheekbones, all that, and the narrow nose. That is not Nefertiti. Nefertiti, people. That is a white archaeologist's wife that he made a bust. He buried it. He brought it out and said, "This is Nefertiti." And so all those people was buying that. You see, buy those earrings and things. You see it. So people, they are finally here to show us. They are finally here to show us, people. They are finally here. They are finally here to show us, people, what Nefertiti really looked like. Nefertiti, Nefertiri, all of them are related, and they're going to show us exactly through reconstruction of bone structure.
Okay.
What Nefertiti, Nefertiri look like. Now, wait a minute. Listen now, they are getting ready to show it. And are you ready, people? Are you ready for the big reveal? Ladies and gentlemen, Nefertiti look like Britney Spears. She looked like Britney Spears. No, she doesn't look like your mama. Your American black. She didn't look like your mama. She didn't look like your aunt. She didn't look like your sister. She looked like Britney Spears. Long blonde hair. Just let that sit for a minute as we go into this election season. Which brings us to this meme, which I thought was one of the most hilarious memes that I had saw in such a while, but definitely this week. People, are you ready? Are you ready for this, people? Are you ready? Brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. This is good. On behalf of black women everywhere, I'd like to congratulate Kamala on her nomination as being the vice president. We would like to, on behalf of all black women, we're going to let that sit for a minute. Y'all not ready. Y'all not ready for tonight. I know you're not. You're not ready for tonight, right? You're not ready for tonight, right? Which brings us to one of our first reviews of the night. Before we go any further, we have to talk about the Umbrella Academy. This series, right? It's a series that's on Netflix. It's on its second season. Hopefully it will have a third under this COVID. The special effects and the CGI, all that excellent on it. But this is a prime example of how a lot of American blacks are dysfunctional. It says it is a super dysfunctional family, right? So when you watch this is a perfect metaphor for what is happening in the black community with this situation here, right? Right. It's a perfect example of what is happening, right? So look, Netflix. Okay. It's on its second season. Synopsis: a band of superhero-like siblings born on the same day return home after their adopted father dies under mysterious circumstances. While trying to solve that mystery, they must save the world from the apocalypse. That's our synopsis on it, right? Right. First, the acting is great in this series. Yeah. Breakout actor in season 1 is Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, she plays definitely against type.
That's right.
Definitely.
The partners, Mary J. Blige is Cha-Cha, and Cameron Button is Hazel. Bring the right combination of dramedy to the storyline, right? But like I said, this story is about dysfunction. Yeah. And this is what we find. So the tension between the Umbrella Academy members, number 5, Vanna, Klaus, Ben is the brother who died, but he's a ghost that Klaus can see. Right. Luther, Allison, and Diego, right? They're the Hargraves clan, right? drives the dysfunction, and it makes you ask, are these the people we entrust to stop the end of the world? Right?
Right.
So that's the umbrella coming. You have to watch it. When you start to watch it, you will see the examples of what we're talking about. So go through the cast real quick.
Okay, starring Aidan Gallagher, Ellen Page, Robert Sheehan, Tom Hopper, Emma Raven-Latman, Emmy Raven-Latman, David Castaneda, Kate Walsh, Jordan Claire Robbins, Justin H. Mann, again, Mary J. Blige, Cameron Britton, Ashley Maddowick, Rita Auer, and Yusuf Gatewood.
Welcome to Blog Talk.
Okay, keep talking, because I got to reconnect, find out what's going on.
So
And
they are
problem solving.
all starring in the Umbrella Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a great show. It kind of just fell on our laps a little because I had heard Mary J. Blige, was part of it. And I kept hearing that she was doing like a really great job acting in it.
That's right.
So,
she is a breakout
and then
star.
when I saw that there was a season 2, I said, let's check this out.
Okay, so 269, we're going to try to come to you. I reconnected to see, you have to problem solve in these things. Okay, so I could hear it, so that means that they should be able to hear me, right? So anyway, CGI special effects 10. The storyline through line 10.
Yeah.
The twist and the turns 10. The acting 10.
Right.
The cinematography 10.
Right.
The wardrobe 10.
Right.
The suspense of disbelief. Very important in sci-fi, action, superhero. You have to suspend belief. And the Umbrella Academy, we give it a 10. All right, let's try this. 269, are you on the line? 269, are you on the line? What is going on with Blog Talk today?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm just basically, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. What's your name?
Yeah, I was basically just listening.
Oh, you were listening. Oh, okay, so that's what it was. So I guess okay. Well, I'll put you back on hold so you can listen. All right, thanks for calling in to listen. All right, people. So that answers that mystery, right? They were calling in to just listen and not necessarily participate other than to listen. So we appreciate you listening. Thank you for your listenership on the film review, right? Yeah. So look.
You know what I love about the Umbrella Academy is, like, literally, minus all of the powers, they remind you of your family a little bit. Because you have all of the multiple personalities, like the dynamic is there, and then you love how although they may have differences, when it's time to come together and band together, they do.
Right.
And the writing is
hilarious. Do they though? That's what people have to watch. Do they? They have to watch both seasons to find out because there's some twists and turns. Do they?
Well, in certain episodes they don't, but then in most
we don't know. We really don't know because the end of the world comes. The end of the world comes. Yeah. And it happens. So did they really band together? You have to watch both.
The writing is really
yes,
really
the through line. The acting is superb.
It
right?
is.
So people, who is this person? Last week we talked about Pan-Africanism and people wanting to run Africa instead of knowing the American black female foremothers. Right. Who is this person right here? What does she stand for? What did she do? If you do not know this person, why are you running all the way over to Africa if you don't even know our people here? American blacks, civil rights, human rights, pushed around the globe. We talked about it last week. This person right here is Barbara Jordan, people. This is Barbara Jordan. And she warned us about this time that we're in now with the immigrant. So let's start laying the rubber to the road. First of all, let's go through some definitions first. So this is Barbara Jordan. Research Barbara Jordan, the Jordan Report. It was named after her because she laid it out. It was done during the time when Clinton was in office, right? And it had to do with, well, that's why you need to research it, but it has to do with what we're talking about today. And she warned us.
Right.
And did we take heed? Did we listen to what Barbara Jordan had to say? Right? So that's a interesting question. Did we? Okay, so let's go through some definitions as we get started. Okay. Is voting best interest for American blacks Biden-Harris ticket? Right. Is voting best interest for American blacks Biden-Harris ticket? Right. Let's have the rubber hit the road on this now, right?
Right.
Illegal aliens. What is an illegal alien? Sometimes people, when you hear these words thrown around and there's no definition for them, so you have to know. A foreigner who enters the U.S. without, I can't read my own writing, without entry or, without official entry or immigrant visa, especially a person who crosses the border by, my writing is atrocious, by avoiding instruction or inspection, or who overstays the period of time allowed as a visitor, tourist, or business person. Got it.
You were
right?
just writing quickly.
So yeah, I write quickly because I actually type 169 words a minute. So when the more you type, the less penmanship you have. But anyway, people. So again, a person who crosses the border by avoiding inspection or who overstays the period of time allowed as a visitor, tourist, or business person. Right. Turn the page. Illegal immigrants.
Okay.
Unauthorized resident immigrant population defined as all foreign-born non-citizens who are not legal residents of the United States of America. Unauthorized resident immigrant population defined as all foreign-born non-citizens who are not legal residents of the United States of America. That's an illegal immigrant, right? The Dems like to call illegal aliens undocumented immigrants.
Right.
What is an American citizen? A person born in the United States or born to U.S. citizens. Both the birth certificate is proof of being a United States citizen, right? A person born in the United States or born to U.S. citizens, the birth certificate is proof of being a United States citizen. That's what a United States citizen is, right? Does being an American citizen have anything to do with illegal aliens, right? Does being an American citizen have to do anything with being an illegal alien? What do you think? Do you think that it had anything to do with being an illegal alien?
I mean, well, first of all, we have a system to enter this country, right?
Yeah.
So, as far as illegal immigrants, we shouldn't have to, here in America, people don't have to deal with that because there is a process to enter America.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I believe the issue, well, for me, is when you have many I'm talking about the Black Americans, right, who have been here for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they apply for positions.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are applying for a job against someone who is an illegal, so I mean, they can be from South America, they can be from Australia, they can be from wherever, right? So, but then they're gonna, when it's time to negotiate the wages, they're gonna go with them because they're gonna ask for less money because they want what they can get, right? So, because we have seen how, we don't know how, but there have been many cases of legal people who have been able to get jobs. And then I'm not talking about people, they like to say, oh, picking oranges. No, it's not all about picking oranges.
No, it's not.
We're talking about like in healthcare, we're talking about in customer service. Matter of fact, someone who's in management, right? We listened to his show. I listened to Harvey, and he talked about when he was in management, he saw management above him hire illegal immigrants, knowing that they were illegal immigrants, but they know that they would take the lower wage. So, I mean, people need to stop with, they like to say, oh, they take the jobs other people don't want, right?
Right.
They've been given jobs at all levels, not just, but then what's a job that most people don't want? Because, again, there are people in America who do domestic work. Black Americans, it could be Asian Americans, Caucasian Americans, Latino Americans, right? And a lot of people take domestic work, right, to help take care of their families or to help get them through colleges, right? So there's no such thing as a job that no American wants. So it's okay to give it to an illegal American. I mean, the thing is...
An illegal, they're not an American.
Well, I think I said that by mistake because they're trying to do these sanctuary cities.
Right.
So they're kind of making them honorary Americans, especially when they're like this whole stimulus thing, like the second package hasn't been passed because they have...
Oh, we're coming to that.
They have issues that they want to pass in regards to illegal immigrants that don't have anything to do with COVID.
That's right.
It don't have anything to do with the Americans who are out of work.
That's right.
I mean, so it's just like, but people won't click their mind on to see beyond, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm this or I'm that. Like, I'm not a Republican, right? I'm not for Trump. I'm for myself, my family, my people.
For the people.
Right. Like for those who are thinkers beyond just being, I don't understand. See, this is my issue. Some people, they like to walk around, oh, I'm Christian or I'm Protestant or I'm Muslim or I'm Jewish or fine, right? But to me, I see people having more allegiance to a political party than they do to their people. Even to their own beliefs in religion. Because I swear some people will throw their life on the line for Biden and Camilla quicker than they do maybe you forgot. When you look at some of the issues and the things that they have done, what's the difference between them and Trump in a lot of the issues?
What's the difference?
So it's just, but people don't take the time to, it's just lazy. People are just lazy. It's just easy to say, let's just vote for Camilla and Biden and not look at the issues that they've passed. People in California, ask some of them what they had to deal with up in San Francisco with Camilla. Ask how she treated the black people in San Francisco.
And really, all you have to do, all the research is there. It's all on YouTube.
People are lazy.
All you got to do is just type in what Camilla as district attorney, Camilla as top cop in San Francisco, and then all the stories will come up. It's there.
Mitrice Richardson. Look up Mitrice Richardson and what that family was put through.
Right.
A young black girl. Look that up.
And so I mean, we gotta look at it. So I'm staying with it's Camilla, not Kamala. Camilla, because it's Indian, not black, not African.
Right.
It's Cam.
Right.
It's camel, like camel. Camilla.
Right.
Camilla.
Right.
Camilla.
And my thing is, you just can't, Trump, Biden, whoever, you just can't give people a pass.
That's right.
Without making sure that they push an agenda for you and your group, something that's going to benefit you. Everyone else pushes an agenda for their group.
We got to put it.
I mean, that's what I respect about the LBGQT community. Mm-hmm. They push their agenda.
Yes.
Right? The Latino X community. They push their agenda. Right?
And guess what? Guess what's in the agenda that they have their agenda, but what we push, we get it in and we push all their agendas along with ours, kind of put ours on the back burner. And when they're pushing their agenda, what's not in there? Oh, American Black agenda is not mentioned. But then
you have some black people, they'll say, well, what's wrong with fighting for everybody else? And I'm like, numbnuts, nobody's fighting for you. I mean, it's just like...
Okay, so look, people, this is another meme that we saw, right? I thought this was hilarious. What Republicans see, and they have Biden with the horns and Trump with the halo.
I'm like, they're fine. I mean, not to cut you off, but they're fine. They're going to be good. Because when you look at the economic disparities, right, shout out to Yvette Cornell and Tom Talks. They give you the numbers, the figures, the graphs, and everything, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at the economic disparities, we're on the bottom. We're on the bottom, right?
Bottom of the totem pole.
And then, so, I mean, it baffles me when, and I'm talking about Black Americans, well, no, we have to fight for these different people's rights and this and that. And I'm like, fool, have you not seen where your group is? The people that you are fighting for are doing better than you.
Because they are receiving the set-asides that Martin Luther King died for.
I'm like,
for us.
Am I in like the damn Twilight Zone?
That he died for us to have those set-asides. And when they put the word minority in, minority is when you look up the government term for minority, is a group of people who cannot take care of themselves. Right. American blacks have always been able to take care of themselves if they would stop rezoning and putting highways through. Right. Or angry whites who were in depression while we were prospering, destroying different cities. Right. Or when people came back from the military not receiving the same GI Bill that... But anyway, people. Right. So look. So this is what Republicans see. Halo for Trump, horns for Biden. What Democrats see, horns for Trump, and for Biden, halo. And what we see, Ronald McDonald and what's the clown for Jack in the Box?
Oh, that clown, the Jack in the Box clown.
Yeah, we see clowns. So people who are really, you see clowns. So which one are you voting for? You're voting for the Shaitan, or you're voting for the devil? Which one you doing it for, people? But again, people, I have to ask, who is this lady right here? Right? We talk about people wanting to run to Africa, and they talking about Africa is better, third world continent is better than the first world continent of North America, with America being in the center of Canada and South America, Mexico, South America. Who was this person? We already told you her name, but what did she warn us about? Barbara Jordan. I'll leave that up there. Now, people. Is voting best interest for American blacks Biden Harris ticket? Let's lay this out bottom line. Okay. Let's lay this out bottom line. But first, before we lay this out bottom line, now that Harris has been chosen, when she was running as president, she was saying she was African American. She was representing African American. And how was she representing African American? She was representing African American like this.
What were you listening to when you was high?
What
was on? What song was?
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac for sure.
What do you listen to now? What's your favorite hip hop artist now? What's your favorite artist?
You know who I really love is Cardi B.
You like Cardi B?
I really do.
Okay.
I really do. Everybody gets really just jokes. Sometimes I just turn on "Be Careful of Me."
Now, right there, her handlers looked at her, and she looked. You know how someone is telling you like, "Let's go," or "Don't say that." She looked over at her handlers right then, and her handlers were like, "No, don't get into that," because she was talking about that she got high. Now, when she was a prosecutor, well, you have to research that for yourself. But let's just say marijuana wasn't her favorite thing, but somehow when she's supposed to be African American and she comes up on the Breakfast Club and she's talking about what she's listening to, when did she graduate college? Because this whole conversation is about when she was getting high. She said she got high, that she puffed, unlike Bill Clinton, who didn't inhale. She actually inhaled, right? So she says that, and she's talking about in college. So Charlamagne asked her, well, what were you listening to? So she said, Snoop. When did she graduate from college? Was Tupac out when she graduated from college while she was puffing on Puff Puff Bad? Was Snoop out? Was Tupac out? And then her favorite artist is Cardi B? I mean, she's just checking all the boxes. She's doing all the stereotypes. Now she's like, it's like, oh no, you saw her when she said, oh no, I wouldn't just do anything just for black people. She's doing her shoulders and popping her head, right? But then now that she's half Jamaican and half Indian from India, she's tied up and she's walking around and she's not talking that anymore. Right. This is not excusable. This is not something that can be forgiven or forgotten. It's not excusable. Who are you dealing with? What are they setting up for American blacks with this choice?
Well, it's one of them. I think she's so fantastic. But there's so many.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, my favorite movie.
You and
her favorite movie. Listen now.
Long day, sit back, have a little wine. What do you put on?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's so many. Recently, I was Beale Street is a.
If Beale Street could talk, what is Beale Street could talk about?
That was depressing movie. I mean, it was depressing.
But what was Beale Street could talk really about? It was about oppression of the American black community.
The main character was in jail wrongly in jail. That wasn't
wrongly placed in jail.
The top cop,
and
though,
she has placed people wrongfully in. People, you got to do your research. So she said that was her. She's sitting back with her hubby. Her hubby is Caucasian. She's sitting back with her hubby. They're drinking wine, as Envy said. And what is your favorite movie to watch? If Beale Street could talk. We have reviewed If Beale Street Could Talk. Right. Go back and listen to that. That's around the 50s, episode 50s. Okay. Or maybe in the 60s, the film review. Go back and review what we said about that film.
The film, yeah.
If Beale Street Could Talk is about the oppression of American black people by the police and being wrongfully convicted of a charge. But this is your favorite movie to sit around with your Caucasian hubby with.
Well, you know what? At the Biden, I've been here before, but I'm looking at it now since I'm sitting here. But the Biden's Harris, JoeBiden.com, and I selected his. Of course, he had an agenda. I selected the agenda for immigrants, right?
What does it say?
And multiple things, but he did say he's gonna undo a lot of what Trump did. As far as like the illegal immigration, so they're gonna undo all of that. But he talks about how when Obama was in office, he talks about how they gave $750 million to to help, for the immigrants, like for room, board, jobs, everything, right?
Room, board, jobs.
So I mean, that's fine.
Is it?
I mean, well, what I'm saying is that okay, but clearly there's an agenda for them, right?
Right.
But why is there an issue? And then another thing I hate is when people say, "Oh, black people don't have agenda." Yes, we do. We have an agenda. There's an agenda, right? So we have a list of policies and
agenda items that we would want implemented, and if we had somebody in government that was truly speaking for us,
they can even just go to ados101.com, right?
That's right. So look, people,
and so there
okay.
Is
let me say this
agenda.
again. You said it. There's something wrong going on here. Look at Carter.
Okay.
I'm for Biden Harris. Bill Clinton. I'm for Biden Harris. Trump. People didn't like Trump too. Didn't like Trump 1. Didn't like Ronald Reagan. If Ronald Reagan, Trump 1 was still alive, and they were sitting up. If Nixon was still alive, and they all were sitting up there, and they were the presidents, and they said, "I'm for Biden Harris." Bill Obama, Kenyan, Caucasian. I'm for Biden Harris. There's something wrong with this because we didn't even like Bush too. He killed up a lot of people, sent people to war, didn't have any compassion.
People are giving Trump props. What's his name?
Do we care so little for our people that we forgot that he left people to die in Katrina? That as the head of the United States government, when the French had the boats out there in the Gulf, they said, "We will take the people in to nurse them," and the American government said no.
Believe me, the people in New Orleans, they remember.
Can't you do you understand this? Something is wrong, something is going awry, and until we might not, because so people, I keep on asking you, I'm going to ask you again. Who is this person? Barbara Jordan. Find out what she warned us about this situation. Do your research and find out and know what's going on. We're going to 314. 314 is on the line. 314, are you there? 314.
I'm happy you mentioned the name of Barbara Jordan. She gave a very good speech, maybe more one on illegal immigrants. And I like to listen to it every now and then.
Okay.
But on your topic, I like your tags. So you got tags that go from A to Z, man, from Hawaii to Vietnam. You own it. But the question is, voting best interest of American blacks to Biden and Harris ticket. Well, for me, it's not. And listening to that, and I don't necessarily, I could go into Biden's past. A lot of people do. And I see a lot of people are willing to forgive Biden on his past, but hold others to the T on their past.
Right.
And that's kind of hypocritical.
Very.
But some of the things he said, like, which I have benefited from the Trump ticket, and many have, is tax reform. Well, he's talking about doing away with all the Trump's tax reform policies. Kamala's talking about getting rid of weapons and stronger gun rights, gun control, which will prevent people from having certain weapons. And right now, you got a lot of African Americans getting involved in gun clubs and the sport of guns, and especially black women. And another thing that I don't like about her is that she's so pro-abortion that I think she stands for a child, as young as 12, to go get abortions without getting their parents' consent.
Oh, so what you're saying is she's a Margaret Sanger.
Well, I could get into that, and I'm going to get into just a little bit. Because you know that your parents have a lot to do with your thinking as you grow older.
Right.
And they say she's African American. Really, she's not, because you look at her parents. Her mother is an Eastern Asian coming from India.
Yeah.
And you know, in India they have the caste system, right?
The untouchables.
They have the Brahmas, which is the lighter Indians.
Right.
And you got the Dalits, which is the darker Indians, that's also been called untouchable.
That's right.
And they are treated pretty bad. You know, her mama comes from the upper class in India, and so did her father come from the upper class in Jamaica. And, you know, just to give you a real quick thing on Jamaica and those islands are not U.S. possessions. Those islands are Antillean, and they are of the Antillean Islands. And some of the things that Latinos and Antilleans were encouraged, they were encouraged to seek marriage with whites, or someone very light in order to gain family approval. So his father is from, well, let's say he's not from Usain Bolt or Buju Banton persuasion.
Right,
you
right.
know,
Got you. I got you.
Take for whatever it means.
Bounty Killer or
Shabba Ranks.
Or Shabba Ranks. Definitely not that. Maybe a little Bob.
Yeah.
But thanks for calling, though.
What's your opinion on it?
Oh, what's my opinion? Well, we're getting to that. And so stay tuned, because, you know, I think that you pretty already... Oh, you want me to put you back on hold and bring you back up after we say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll put you back on hold. Hold on 1 second. All right, people. So look. The show is voting. Voting best interest for American Blacks Biden-Harris ticket, right? Bianchi was just on the line. We got him back on hold. Yeah, shout out to him. He's laying out some things, right? But let's lay this out bottom line, right? We're talking about her acting like she was African American and using all the stereotypes. You know, I have never smoked weed. I have never drank a drink of alcohol. I have never smoked a cigarette, and I have never sold a drug or used drugs. So I take offense to her standing up there talking about she was listening to Tupac and Snoop Dogg. Tupac and Snoop Dogg were talking about an era and time when they came through, and they talked about what they saw. And if Tupac had been able to live long enough, what he would have been able to produce to be able to move American blacks forward, what he was planning on producing to move them forward, would have been astronomically great, right? So let's lay this on the line. You got children, you got a wife. If the answer to that is yes, or you have a person that you are caring for, an elderly person, and the answer to that is yes, if any of the answers to those questions is yes, and you're American black, question is, your best interest for illegals who are under Biden-Harris? They will receive a EIN, a driver's license, subsidized housing. You know, that's something they criticize black people for, subsidized housing.
And I just read SNAP. Did in Medicare, Medicaid, is that on your list?
Okay, no, I didn't put that there.
No, because that was on Biden's side.
Right. And the right to vote. And first dibs at work, because they will accept a lower wage. Come on, people. Time to wake up. What are they showing you by coming out and telling you that first she was African American? She went through the system. She was an AKA. She was at Howard. She checked all the boxes when she was running for president, like Obama did. And Obama didn't come through the lineage anchored in 1619. He was Kenyan and Kansas City by way of Hawaii. Then carpetbagging into Chicago. Learn what carpetbagging. But look, people. Is that your best interest? Look at your children. Look at your wife and relatives. COVID-19 is happening, and can you afford to be out of work? Can you afford to be out of work? They're going to give them an EIN number. They're going to give them health care. They're going to give them a driver's license. They're going to give them subsidized housing. They're going to give them the right to vote. So hopefully they will vote for Democrats. But usually the immigrants look at who's in power and they vote for Republican.
If this was done legally, I mean through the process, through the immigration process, fine. But it's just, I don't see them making any type of, when it comes to Black Americans, like, how about this? How about when a young Black person, or it can be an older, elderly Black person, when they're released from jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any programs that will allow them to find work, to help them with work, to help them with housing.
Oh, wait, but Trump just signed the act, and we're going to get to that.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that because Trump has policies that indirectly help, and if the policies are there and they help American Black people, what are you doing? What are you doing?
An example, the reason why I brought up jail is because I was listening to an interview earlier about with a young mother who Kamala Harris, right, had placed in jail truancy, right?
For truancy for a daughter who had sickle cell.
Her daughter had sickle cell anemia.
She could barely walk.
But
they wanted her to send her to school, and she called the excuses in. But under the new law that they had put into place, she was charged with truancy. Pulled her out the house in her pajamas
with the cameras. This was
with
like
the cameras.
A photo.
And has never apologized. All the woman wanted was an apology and a sit down.
Woman lost her home,
lost her
because
job
she couldn't work. Right?
That's right.
Because once she went to jail, it was on
her record. That's right.
So it's just like there are people who are in jail for like minor crimes or for crimes that they didn't commit, but then once they're released, they're not getting a red carpet. They're not getting all of this that they want to give to illegal immigrants.
What did Biden say when he announced her? He said she would be ready day one to assume the presidency. Did you listen? They're planning on him. They're planning on putting her in probably about 6 months to a year. I might even say just 6 months to a year to 2 years. Biden being in there say he can't do it, and then they will swear her in as president to have a woman and have a Black woman, but really she's not Black in the tradition of American Black.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at, and we're not talking about like, okay, we're not talking about how when we talk about the super predators with Clinton and with Biden and his policy. I'm not even going that far back with Kamala, right? We just talking about a few years ago. And I'm looking at how she
Kamala,
treated.
Remember, it's not Camilla. See, that's how they get you.
It. Yeah, okay, Kamala. I'm just talking about just a few years back, right? How she treated her record with Black American men and women, how she treated them. So let's just go. We don't even have to go that far back to look at that.
Since she's going to be de facto president. What kind of policies is she going to put down coming from having blood that runs through her veins of people coming from the upper classes of where she came from? She's already shown you how she feels. Due to not only illegal...
Real quick, what's the old saying? When people show you who they are, believe them.
That's Maya Angelou or Maya Angelou. Look. Due to not only illegals, but what we talked about in episode 123 about the fight for survival against the machines taking your jobs, illegals are going to take your jobs. If it were another American Black, you sure would know how to defend yourself. Everything is on the line. So let's talk facts. Let's bring 314 back up on the line. 314, are you there?
Well, yeah, and you mean the I-10 number, ITIN, which is the individual tax identification number that the IRS gives to undocumented because they can't get a social security number.
Right.
They really aren't supposed to be working, but some of them here come under work visas and so forth.
Right.
But did you know they take that I-10 number, they can get home mortgages with it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I cut to the chase and say homes, they're going to give them all that, driver's license, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to be able to vote. Hopefully they'll vote
when they
Democrat.
get their home mortgage,
right.
When they sign their papers on that home mortgage, they go to the bank will give them a mortgage loan and a credit card. And then they take the paperwork to the local registration, the voters registration, they register to vote because they can show an address. And they also get driver's license, which is prelude to voting in many states. Then they vote for these Democrats.
Well, they may really vote Republican because that's been the tradition. Just ask the Cubans.
Well, you know the reason why I say that is because they're coming from socialist countries. Just think, how you grow up in the environment that you grow up in is going to dictate your behavior. And just think when the pandemic first hit, and you remember how people was hoarding bread, eggs, toilet paper, and water? Mm-hmm. Well, down in Venezuela, in those countries, when they have any sort of thing that's going to have a shortage of food, that's what people go hoard, those very things. Americans have never experienced where they had to go run to the store, of course, unless it's like a hurricane or something. But across the nation, where you're going to have a shortage of all those things, and they're going to be hoarding them, they never experienced it. So those illegals and those undocumented, and those people coming from socialist countries, where they have been conditioned to behave like that.
That's true. I mean, I'll take that, but I think once they come to the country, they also look at and see what the power structure is. Like Democrats want power, and so they're going to use the illegal immigrant to try to get power. But I think if it runs the tradition the way it usually traditionally runs, the illegal immigrant is going to look at where the power structure is, and they're going to vote with who they feel has the most power. What do you say to that?
Well, that's what they're being taught. You're right. And you know another thing that you made that was very pertinent. Nobody's asking them what their platform is. Right. See, we know. I know what Trump's platform was when he said he was going to have tariffs, he's going to have border protection, he's going to have immigration control, right. He's going to have school choice and tax reform. Those things there was something that I could gravitate to. When Joe Biden, as I mentioned earlier, said he's going to do away with the tax reform, so I surely wouldn't vote for him. If I'm married, Trump doubled the standard deduction from $12,000 to $24,000. I got an extra $12,000 I got in my pocket. He said he's getting away with it. Nobody knows what Harris is going to do other than the fact that she says she's going to take away guns and she wants more restrictions on gun ownership under the guise of gun control.
Right. I mean, but we're going to keep on going on with the show. But thanks for calling up. We appreciate your viewpoint.
Hey, real quick.
Real
quick.
Go ahead.
I'll say this real quick.
Go ahead.
The things that affect Black Americans the most, and people say what they want, is education, which equates to economics. Education and economics. All this other stuff. If you're able to carry on, because they're talking about giving things to people. What you want is the opportunity and to be able to utilize those opportunities to make for a better life for you and your family. To build families. Families is strong. Right. When you don't have strong families, I'm sorry, you out there in a very vulnerable position. Don't we see that all the time? Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much, sir.
Okay. All right, talk to you next time.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, so look, people. At this point, I know certain blacks' ears shut and eyes shut when a certain name is mentioned, but best clean out your ears and open your eyes, because those without vision, the ability to hear, the ability to see, and the ability to speak will perish. Right? Let's look at what has happened to American blacks since Trump has been in office versus when Biden and Harris, if they hold office.
Well, let me hear this. This should be.
You know, we've got facts. A contrast is always best, so people will understand it. Biden. We're going extra long, people. So all the people who are listening to us on Blog Talk, make sure you jump over to either YouTube, the Film Review Live channel. We're on live there, the Film Review Live channel, or you jump on to FB, Facebook, over to the Film Review Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast page on Facebook, or Crazon Dion on Facebook, right? Or on Patreon, right? But so all those that are on there, jump onto one of those sites. Probably the best one will be YouTube because it's an open platform. You can watch it at the Film Review Live channel. We're on now under this title is Voting Best Interest for American Blacks, the Biden-Harris Ticket, ? That's it, episode 126. Right? So look, Biden.
Okay.
101 drug laws. It was called the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988. How did Biden, now we're moving over to Biden, right?
Right.
How did Biden open up with how he was going to push the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, right? Let's listen to what Biden had to say.
Take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enabled them to have become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one. There's a consensus on that. Unless we do something about that cadre of young people, tens of thousands of them, born out of wedlock, without parents, without supervision, without any structure, without any conscience developing, because they literally, I yield myself 3 more minutes, because they literally have not been socialized. They literally have not had an opportunity. We should focus on them now. If we don't, they will, or a portion of them will, become the predators 15 years from now.
Okay, so this is the argument that Hillary Clinton was talking about, which caused her not to take the presidency. That's why I said that it was about half. Now that I think about the super predators, how she was pushing that to get this, she picked that up in the 90s. The super predator was in the 90s. This is in 80. This is 93, right? So this is for the crime bill. So I played the wrong video, but so this is for the crime bill. So this is picking up, and he's talking about super predators, right? So this is the crime bill that hatched on and gave the 3 strikes. The Drug Abuse Act, right? The Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 88 did the 100-to-1 on crack cocaine, meaning that white boys doing cocaine get slapped on the hand. Black dudes doing the selling crack or using it, they get life. They get harder sentences. They get something to life. They might have been able to get something reduced, and then you get 2 strikes, and you come into the 93 bill, and then the act is enacted, and then you get a 3rd strike. You're in for life, permanently, no chance of parole.
You said 1993.
1990, yeah, that's the crime bill. That's the I pressed it wrong, but 1994 Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, right?
Okay, so you said 90. Do you mean you said
that was
94?
90? It was 93 when they were
Okay,
doing,
so because I was, you know what,
go.
I wanted to get the correct year, because in 93 it says Joe Biden was about 51 years old.
Okay.
So if he was about 51 years old, and this is the bill that he came up with, and this clearly his views at the age of 51. I mean, how do you think he's thinking now? It's not like he was like a young kid. He was in his 20s or 18 and 19, and he has a different view now.
Right.
This man was, on here they're saying it about 51. So maybe he was 50 or was getting ready to turn 51, depending on when his birthday is. But the issue is, at the age of, let's say, 51, if he was doing this at the age of 51, what makes you think he's so different now? You are who you are, especially by the time you hit 50.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Right?
You are who you are.
So...
Right. So look, people. Who is this woman? Barbara Jordan. She warned us about this time. Let's look at Biden now. Let's look at another step of the crime bill where it's broken down by a reporter. Check this out right here.
Former Vice President Joe Biden seems primed to be at the head of a crowded Democratic 2020 field, but his role as a leading architect in America's crackdown on drugs could be a major liability for his campaign.
I think the problem with Joe Biden isn't that he was a passenger on the drug war train, he was driving it.
In 1988, as chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Biden co-sponsored the Anti-Drug Abuse Act. The bill led to new mandatory minimum sentences for drug offenders and created a sentencing rule that led to stiffer punishments for crack cocaine users than those who used powder cocaine. In 1989, when then-President George H.W. Bush called for $8 billion to help law enforcement in the war against drugs, Biden said it was inadequate and called for stricter punishments for both drug users and dealers.
The president says he wants to wage a war on drugs.
First of all, look at this dude, right? Who is the guy that's running now? I mean, it's so much skin pulled back at this point. And so much, this guy right here and the guy that's running, they hardly even look like the same guy. Plus, he had a comb over. How did he get a comb back all of a sudden? It was a comb over because it was... Who is this guy? Anyway,
but if that's true, what we need is another D-Day, not another Vietnam, not another limited war fought on the cheap and destined for stalemate and human tragedy.
Then in 1994, Biden spearheaded the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, a bill that touched nearly every aspect of law enforcement and is credited for leading to a boom in for-profit prisons and mass incarceration. And while every other candidate in the 2020 Democratic primary supports marijuana legalization or decriminalization, Biden hasn't jumped on the 420 bandwagon yet. His position on marijuana itself hasn't wavered much over the years. In 2010, he said legalization would be a mistake, and he's been relatively mum on the issue since.
Any person.
So look, people, as we're sitting here, we're looking at Biden, right? And what Biden did. Biden was the architect who made it possible first for the black community to be decimated. Ronald Reagan used the distribution of cocaine to fund the Iran-Contra, right? Then they come up with laws to lock the people up that they used to fund the Iran-Contra. For the drugs, 100 to 1. Then they come back a decade later under a Democrat president and say, okay, if you got 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, you're out, you're in prison for life. Come on, people. What are we looking at? We're looking at a top cop, and we're looking at a person that's an overzealous legislator, lawmaker, that was about the decimation of... So why would you think that it would be any different for black people under him? right? Under his presidency, right? Now, let's take a look at what Trump did in 2018. I know you haven't been watching the news, and I know your ears will close. Some people's ears will close when they hear the word hear the name Donald Trump, but you have to pay attention to what is happening and what it means to you. And so this is very important here, right? So this is Donald Trump, right? This is called First Step Act, December 2018. Bipartisan. Listen. Everybody.
President Trump showcasing what would be the most sweeping prison reform agreement in decades, and if it passes, one of the biggest bipartisan laws of his administration.
Americans from across the political spectrum can unite around prison reform legislation that will reduce crime while giving our fellow citizens a chance at redemption.
The deal would loosen restrictions on certain federal mandatory minimum sentences, give judges more discretion to sentence people who've committed minor crimes in the past, and extend a 2010 law that could help federal drug offenders serving disproportionately long sentences.
We're just putting a lot of people in jail for a long period of time who I think need to be back out on the streets working.
See, they're realizing now that locking away people who were able-bodied and who could work has decimated not only the American black community, but it has decimated the force that would keep America strong, because they put a lot of people in prison over that, right? So the 2010 law that they're talking about is Obama, what's called the Fair Sentencing Act, which reduced penalties for crack offenses. The only thing I didn't like about Obama, the way they was talking about it, was they kept pushing it like it was only blacks, only blacks, only blacks, only blacks. That's the way they kept pushing it. And him as what he embodied, it was just totally foul, right? And speaking of drugs and all that, which brings us to our next review of the night, right? As we close out, that we want to make sure that the people on Blog Talk have this, right? We go to a movie on Netflix called Project Power, right? It's starring Jamie Foxx, right?
Right.
And Project Power, the synopsis is: a father searches for his daughter who was taken. His search takes him into various shady areas as he builds the team that will assist him.
Right.
But will he be too late to save his daughter? That's the synopsis, right? See, this movie is about a drug that you take. You don't know what type of power it's going to give you. You don't know if it's going to kill you instantly or if it's going to give you power, but it'll give you 5 minutes of power for you to do. And the tagline has something to say: are you willing to risk your life for 5 minutes of power, right? And so this is what this is about. This is about illegal drugs, a new type of illegal drug that gives you a power, right? It's an action, crime, sci-fi. The storyline is good, but the through line is full of gaps and holes, right? But it's so entertaining, you forget about the holes and the gaps. Because there's certain things in there, you're like, how could that happen? You're like, I don't know about that. So the cast: Jamie Foxx as Art, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Frank, Dominique Fishback as Robin. You know her from The Deuce, right?
HBO.
On HBO, right? Machine Gun Kelly is Newt. Courtney Vance is Captain Crane, right? The first face that you see, that the viewer sees, is Cleveland's own Machine Gun Kelly, MGK, right? It is very interesting because it shows you where drugs could go if they are not stopped. Every time they want to subdue a group of people, they release a drug, right? And this is no different, but this drug is being tried out in New Orleans,
right?
And to the New Orleans people, and they're just giving ad hoc, whatever you get, you take. But they know they're just studying, and they track and they see what happens to each person and how effective the drug is, so that they can sell it to people, other countries, for their armies. That's what this is setting up. It's a great film. There's some gaps in the through line, but the storyline is pretty good. So let's see. The CGI special effects is a 10. Storyline is good. It's a 10. Through line is gappy, got some holes. That's a 7. Wardrobe is a 10. Acting is a 10. The dramatic acting in this, between Jamie Foxx and Fishback, is excellent, right?
Yeah, it is.
New Orleans, using New Orleans as a living, breathing character. The way that they show you New Orleans in this picture, the cinematography of it, 10, right? The twists and turns in it, 10. The action sequences, 10. The dialogue is a 10. Well written.
Yeah, it is.
Well written.
Yeah.
We give, well, what would you give?
I would definitely give it a 10. It was from the beginning to end. It was engaging. The storyline was great. I love the relationship between, I love the 3 relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
The relationship between Jamie Foxx and the young lady,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship between the police officer and the young lady, and Jamie Foxx and his daughter. So maybe it was 4 relationships with the daughter. But I love the dynamics, like in the way they all interacted with each other and they came together, and it was a good film. It was entertaining. It was funny. It was just like, it was like the Marvel characters, like on steroids.
Yeah, I say that. So look,
superheroes on steroids.
So I give it a 10. The opening sequence with Machine Gun Kelly is worth the price of admission.
Wow, that scene.
I mean, it's incredible, right?
It is.
So look, let's get back now to Trump. Trump is like people don't watch, they don't listen, they hear the word Trump, or the name Trump, and they just want to shut down because the media is being dishonest to you. So this was 2018. They were proposing it. What happened in 2019?
Thousands of former prisoners who thought they would spend Christmas behind bars are free thanks to the help of the First Step Act. President Trump signed the legislation into law last December. The act increases the number of good conduct time credits an inmate can earn per year. It also built on the Fair Sentencing Act of 2010, signed by former President Obama, which reduced penalties for crack cocaine offenses. The U.S. Sentencing Commission says those changes can help more than 140,000 people in prison. We spoke with 2 former inmates who say they're still adjusting to their newfound freedom. Before President Trump signed the First Step Act into law, did you expect to spend the rest of your life behind bars?
I did, but I didn't, because I never gave up fighting.
Okay, so let's pause this. Let's go back again. 100 to 1 in the 80s. 3 strikes law in the 90s.
Right.
Joe Biden. 1 under a Republican president.
Right.
1 under a Democrat president.
Right.
Trump comes and reverses that
Right.
and helps. It starts in December 2018.
Right.
Gets bipartisan support. Even Van Jones was talking positively on it. All of that is on YouTube. You can research this.
Yeah.
Releasing people from prison who would have had life sentences under what Joe Biden made. Super predators, right? No redemption, no nothing, right?
At the age of 50-something years old.
At the age of 51, right?
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, as we segue in, Joe Biden's son gets released from active duty for this, And somehow Joe Biden forgot about, opportunity or lack of opportunity, and this happened.
Now to our ABC News investigation this morning into Joe Biden's son Hunter and questions about money he made from foreign business dealings while his father was vice president. Our chief national affairs correspondent Tom Yamas traveled to Ukraine to try to get some answers. And Tom, what did you find?
Dave, good morning to you. This is actually an issue Joe Biden has been dealing with since 2014, but it's come up again because he's now running for president. Republicans, including President Trump, are trying to hammer Biden over this. At issue, was Hunter Biden profiting off his dad's work as vice president, and did Joe Biden allow it? We're talking about millions of dollars in at least 2 countries. Mr. Vice President, Tom Yamas with ABC News. How you doing? Got a quick question for you.
Now, mind you, his son, Hunter, had just been, I'll just call it dishonorably discharged from the reserves for failing a drug test which found that he had cocaine in his system. But somehow, a few months later, here he is, and let's keep watching. Now, before we go any further, some people may get confused and say, well, I would like to be able to save my son the same way. The point is that either law and order and the criminal justice system is the same for everyone, or it's not, and thus and so you can't justify, because you would want to be able to do the same thing. You can't justify this man who destroyed the American black community.
But wouldn't that be considered being sinister? Because you know that your son is doing the powder, the white powder, the cocaine, it's a lesser charge. But for crack cocaine, it's a higher charge.
Right. But his son was young when those laws was going through. But he came through doing, he came through and he did it. And my thing is, it's hypocrisy because of the fact that Joe Biden's son gets a slap on the wrist for cocaine. It's 100 to 1. He gets a slap and gets to go on before.
Oh, that's why I said it's sinister.
Right, it's sinister. It's hypocrisy. It's all that, and he gets to go and do this. Let's keep listening, people. Do you want this person for your president?
It's a question we tried to ask repeatedly. Can we ask you about Ukraine and China? But kept getting blocked. Questions about foreign deals his son Hunter Biden pursued.
My father, Joe Biden.
In countries where Joe Biden was working as America's top diplomat. In 2014, Ukrainians, sick of corruption, revolted. Vice President Joe Biden went to Kiev to help the new government.
You have to fight the cancer of corruption.
But then, something strange happened. Just 3 weeks later, a Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma, accused of corruption, appoints Hunter Biden, seen here in their promotional videos, to their board of directors, paying his firm more than $1 million a year. Hunter, a lawyer who had just been discharged from the Navy Reserves for testing positive for cocaine.
Mr. Hunter Biden.
It goes on to tell you that you can go research this stuff, people. What is going on?
And then
right?
how young was he when he started doing drugs? Like, so.
Yeah, he could have been a teen. I mean, slap on the wrist.
So
boys will be boys unless you don't have the complexion for the protection. You got this. You can't be boys.
So I mean, if he started like young, like most people who are on drugs start taking drugs really young. Then of course, when you're going to have all this in mind when you put these laws together, and your son get a slap on the wrist for cocaine versus maybe Tommy, from the hood, crack cocaine is going to do more time.
So people, you know what? We're going to do a part 2 to this because I really want to take time to stretch out because we got more information. But right now, who is this person? Who is this person? We don't have to rush this because we've got time. So next Sunday at 5:30 is part 2 of this. Go through this. We dropped a lot of information. Find out who Barbara Jordan is. She warned us about this. And we're coming back to tell you about the 4, if you didn't know, the 4 executive orders that Trump signed that help blacks. So people, this has been the Film Review, Movies, Music, Culture, Politics, Society podcast. We're your host. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, society. And we will see you next time on The Film Review.
The Film Review. Movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. Interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on the Film Review Live channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stannis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching The Film Review.